What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Young Entrepreneur Show. I am here with Alex Hormozi, the founder of Allen, Gym Launch, Prestige Labs, and owns a couple other companies in a portfolio that has done over $100 million. And as he likes to say in his YouTube, he's not here to sell you anything, but I probably will plug his book pretty hard at the end because it's so good. But guys, Alex, I've been binging his content over the last, couple months here, and it's, some of the realest business advice and, amazing stuff. And he's an entrepreneur that I can really relate with because, as we'll dive into his story, into, when he was back in college, he was, not like your typical entrepreneur when it comes to college, and we'll unpack that. So Alex, thanks so much, man, for taking the time to come out. And yeah, thanks for being on the show.
I'm glad to be here. The younger generation is where we put a lot of our resource, a lot of our money, in terms of what we donate. And so donating time and money is something that we're passionate about because I'm sure, as you know, and some of the listeners, the education system that exists today is very broken, and it no longer has the value proposition that it used to. And graduating in 4 years, not earning an income, and going into $100,000 of debt, for you having the exact same job prospects 4 years from now as you did when you started, just doesn't really make a lot of sense anymore. And so, our goal with acquisition.com, which is the umbrella company, which is the one that published the book and owns all of the portfolio companies, is to fix that. That's our goal.
That's amazing, Alex. And we'll unpack that a lot in this episode. But I want to take listeners back a little bit to your time, in college and right after, because to my understanding, you were following, a lot of what, society tells you to do, what, everyone thinks is the right path. Go to school, get a good job. But it sounds like it wasn't right for you. But you still did really well in school. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I think, people are driven by different things. I know for me, in the beginning, it was getting the approval of my father, and wanted to get that. And the only vehicle that I had at the time was school, school, and then a good job prospect. And so I studied very hard. I did not do the traditional, like, school didn't understand me and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that most entrepreneurs, if they actually applied themselves to school, would succeed. It's just that maybe they were smarter than I was and just realized that learning about, Aztec literature is just not really going to serve them in life in any way. And so, So anyways, I did that. Graduated in 3 years, managing money from Vanderbilt. And I spent 2 years doing management consulting, where I did defense contracting, which was space, cyber, and intelligence for the military. That was an interesting experience for me because I truly hated the job. Mostly because I felt like I was being underutilized, and I didn't feel like I had opportunities to grow. And I think that if I still, when I look back, if I've been very fortunate because I hated that so much that it got me into entrepreneurship. If I had, I think, like an average job or even above average job, I think I would still be in that path. I don't think I would.
Really?
I don't know if I would have quit. But I was so unhappy with that. I had a condo in a high rise. I was 22, 23 years old. And I kind of had a rock top moment rather than a rock bottom moment, which was like, is this it? Is this all I have for the rest of my life? Is just more of pretty much what I already have. And that wasn't very satisfying for me. And so the most terrifying thing that I did was, at that point, I really didn't want to live anymore. And so I think when I was confronted with my own mortality, I realized that there was really no point to continuing down a path that I saw the outcome that I didn't like. And so I decided to quit everything, sell everything that I had, pack my car, and I drove across the country to California, which is where I thought the land of fitness opportunity existed, because I figured I might as well do something that I love, and not make any money, because at least I won't be miserable. And as soon as, because I was always into fitness, and so that was what I would spend all my time reading about. And so I figured I would just do something around that. Little did I know that running a fitness business and being into fitness are completely different topics altogether, because one is running a business, the other one is working out, which, if you guys look at that, have no bearing whatsoever on one another. But I was kind of cornered into that. And when I say corner, I mean, I painted myself into a corner, signed a lease, and then started, my first gym after mentoring with someone for 3 months. I worked for free at their gym to just kind of learn the rope. And so that was when everything started.
Yeah. And I know that I think spent, the first 9 months sleeping in the gym, literally giving all your time and effort. And I know that, also you talk about a concept of skill stacking where, you acquire skills as an entrepreneur and stack them on top of another as you move out through your journey. So my question is, at that time, what skills were you learning and were you focusing on like right from the start in your business to help you get going in the skills you're acquiring?
So there's three things that have to grow in parallel. And I know you've heard this stuff, but for your audience, it's you have your skills
Mhm,
and you have your trade, you have your beliefs. Right? And at every
mhm,
level you have to upgrade them because you will settle to the lowest of those three. So you might be very skilled and have exceptional character traits, but if you don't believe that you can run a business, or if you don't believe you can charge a certain amount, or you don't believe you can make a certain amount of money, then you will be limited by that
mhm,
belief. To the same degree, if you might have all the beliefs in the world and might have amazing skills, but you're really inconsistent, you're really emotional, then you're going to be limited by that character trait, by who you are. And in a third example, because I just want to drive it home, I might be an exceptional human being and have amazing beliefs about the world, but if I have no skills, there's nothing I can do. And so no matter what it is, all three of those things must move forward in lockstep in order to kind of climb the ladder of figurative success. Each of those rungs is all three of those. You have the two sidebars, beliefs and traits, and then each rung is another skill that you have to stack on top of each other.
ah,
And so I'll for your audience, because I think this will be more relevant to many of them, I want everyone to understand that the scariest decision I've ever made in my entire life was quitting my job. And this was, mind you, at a time when I had no dependents. So I had no wife, I had no girlfriend, I had no kids, I didn't even have a pet. I had nothing that depended on me. And yet the fear of the judgment of those around me who I pictured in my mind who would be laughing at me and mocking me for potentially failing, that was the most painful thing to try and reconcile when I made the decision to quit. And so it was
mhm,
because I was truly faced with my own mortality. And that was how I was able to courage myself through it was, well, do you care more about other people's opinions or do you care about your life? And so I had to literally pick dying or not dying over everyone else's opinions because that's how much they mattered to me. And so I say that because I don't know who's listening, but you may be at that point in your life. And I can tell you that you will grow more and you won't go homeless. You won't. As long as you're a normal person who's not crazy, then people will support you typically in the
mhm,
beginning. People like first I slept on the floor of the gym for the first however many months. And then I split a room in a house with 6 other people. And I paid, I think, $400 a month in Southern California, which is insane in terms of if you're familiar with this. I split one
yeah,
bedroom with another dude for $400 a month. And that is how I was able to live. And I saved everything that I made. If you really needed to, you could drive Uber, to get enough money for food, and then spend the rest of your time doing your thing. So I think,
mhm,
and Uber didn't even really, I feel like, exist then. So for me, so I didn't have that. So I'll tell you this: I
yeah,
had backup plans,
mhm,
and I just want to hit on this because we can get into the skill stuff. But like this
yeah.
belief has to be broken for most people. It's very easy to do the mental masturbation of the skills that you want to acquire, but if you can't have the belief to take the first step, it doesn't
I
matter.
was just gonna bring you back. So
Yeah.
how did you instill that belief? It's because the courage of, like you were faced with basically death or this, and that's what gave you the courage. How did you build upon that belief to
Yeah.
be able to then acquire the skills and to be able to,
Yeah.
progress throughout your business?
So the way that I had to do this was I had to sell myself, right? And the way that I sold myself was the same close I do with most of the sales that I do, which is best case, worst case. So if I'm selling someone, I'm like, hey, best case scenario, this is what happens. Worst case scenario, this is what happens, right? Both ways are risk free, but this one will get me where I want to go. And so my plan B was that I would strip at a gay club because I figured that that's where the best tips were, and I was in good shape. And so I figured
Mhm,
if I need to do whatever, drive Uber, drive a cab during the day, and then strip at night, I could still probably make 150 grand and start over in a year if I needed to. And
mhm,
that was something that I was willing to do. Some people are not willing to do that, and that's okay. But like for me, I have no shame with that kind of thing. Like I will do what I need to do to survive. And so for me,
mhm,
that was what it took. And so it was just confronting what is the worst case, like playing it out.
okay,
What is the true worst case? My wife talks about her worst case was she's like, I moved back in with my parents. She's like, that's not so bad. Like, she's like, I have my own room. They make food for me. Like, and then I continue to work on my business. So like, That's not that bad of a worst case scenario. We catastrophize because the thing that you're actually afraid of is the judgment. But if you realize the judgment doesn't exist, then it's really like I'm just going to live in my parents' house, which is not that bad, right? And for me, that was horrifying because the idea of failing and having my father tell me he told me so and that he was right and that I shouldn't have quit my really good job was horrifying. And so I did everything I could to avoid that fate. That was the belief set, was arguing myself through that. And candidly, it took me 6 months. 6 months from when I was like, I'm going to quit to actually quitting. It was 6 months of just torture and ping pong back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And a lot of this internet stuff wasn't there. So I did like this whole gig, ClickFunnels didn't exist. Like none of this stuff, you know what I mean? Facebook ads, I think just had released an ad product, you know what I mean? To my knowledge at that point, like none of this stuff existed, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of people now have a lot more, more fortunate because it's easier now than it ever has been.
You got the belief now.
Yeah. Right. And so I think I had the character traits. So I think that was something that I worked a lot on. And I would say the book that changed my life around that was Dale Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Influence People. I truly believe that if people just did everything in that book, they could just be successful. But all the stuff in that book is simple, not easy. Simple to understand. It's hard to do, right? It's hard to listen. It's hard to be interested in other people. It's hard to remember people's names, right? But you have to prioritize those things, to create the character traits that will make you attractive to other people in a way that they'll find you interesting. And so I think I had the traits, which is why I think I've been able to jump a couple levels faster in some ways. Just me observing myself. I could be wrong. And then at that point, I had the belief that I was willing to do anything. I had the character traits that would, allow me to be personable, you know what I mean? To be socially coherent. And then at that point, I had to learn everything else. I had to learn how to generate leads. I had to learn how to sell. I had to learn how to run a facility, and all those things I had to learn at the same time. And I didn't know what I was doing. I candidly didn't take a sales training until I had already sold 4,000 people. So I'll tell you this, a lot of people have natural tendencies. You know what I mean? Like I think I'm naturally good at sales. I got better, but I was already pretty good and I'd never done it before. But to me, I didn't even know it was sales. It was just like trying to get people to sign up for my thing because I thought I could help them. And so it was just like, no, I can help you, because I was starting with the intention of helping the other person. And I think that has always been one of the cheat codes of life, is that most people sell things they're not convicted about.
Yeah, talk about that, because I know that you released a video with conviction being so powerful in sales, and weighing so much more than actual skill. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So sales, there's lots of components to sales, but I'll try and simplify it. So fundamentally, sales is a transference of conviction. You have a cup full of conviction of belief, and you need to put it into someone else's cup that's currently empty. The bridge of transferring that conviction is trust. And so that's why referrals from customers sell so easily, because they already trust you. And so it's just like, you just say what you're going to do, and they're like, okay, because they already heard from someone else. So they trust you. As long as it just makes sense and it's just what they want, then they'll say yes, right? Cold sales, they don't trust you. And so you have to build rapport and build trust so that you can transfer the conviction. But here's the thing. People trust people who they believe are genuinely trying to help them. And so that is where the conviction counts twice, because you have to transfer the conviction, but you have to have the conviction so that the person believes you, right? Otherwise, you're just a sociopath and you're lying. Now, the difficulty is, what do I do when I don't 100% believe in the thing that I'm selling? Well, first off, you should fix that. That's the obvious answer. But I'll give you a much more tactical answer that no one would normally say. What you have to do is believe that you are the best chance that this person has at being successful. You're not going to say, I promise you're going to be successful, because you can't control that. If I couldn't sign someone up at my gym and say, I promise you, now I can do everything in my power, but I can't control if you drink margaritas on the weekend and eat Snickers and don't show up at the gym. I can't do the push-ups for you. And so if you ever have anything where the other person has to do something or meet you halfway, then you have to be convicted about something else besides their outcome, because you can't control it. What can you control? You can control the experience that they're going to go through, and you can control the process and the product that you've created, or the service or the client experience, and know that this is the best chance that they have at success. And you can put your conviction 100% into that. And when you sell from that perspective, it'll allow you to sell with conviction. Now, once you have the conviction and you transfer it with trust, right? There's two components to selling besides that. That's like the energy component of it, right? Okay. The other component is what you say and how you say it, right? The what you say part is questions, right? It's a question-based framework because people do not change their mind based on statements. They change their mind based on questions because they need to come to the conclusion on their own so they can believe that the idea is their own, so they can own the decision and then ultimately take the step towards you, right?
Yes.
Sales is a lot like seduction, right? You can't just, otherwise it's just rape if you try and take their consent. Like they need to consent, right? So that it means that they have to generate on their own. This is their idea. And the only way you can do that is through asking questions. Now, how you ask the questions, the tone communicates more than what you say. So the perfect sales script sounds like someone who gives a shit about someone else. So if I were to say, what's your goal? What are you trying to do? What have you done so far? How's that work for you? What do you think, made you fail? Okay, understood. I think this is what we can help you do. Does that sound reasonable to you? Okay, cool. Do you want to hear how that would work? XYZ explanation. And then the explanations are the only part where you ever actually say anything. The rest of the script is just asking questions to lead them to the natural conclusion they should work with you, right? The only things in the quote pitch are usually what I like saying they're short anecdotes. They're tiny little snippets because most people don't actually care about the thing. About rather the vehicle of how they get there. They just care about going to Maui. They don't care whether they get a boat or a plane or a jet. They just want to get to Maui, right? And so we need to give simple analogies to explain what's going to happen, right? So it's like, hey, if I'm selling SEO, then I would say like, hey, you've got paid ads, which is like, your paycheck, and SEO is kind of like an investment, right? And so we're going to be running ads in the short term, but we're going to be building this investment in the long term so that eventually you don't need to have this income from your paid ads, and it's just all going to be SEO that feeds the pipeline, right? Right. I'm not going to say, hey, we're going to index 100 pages and we're going to cross-reference you on all these keywords. So he's like, I, as the customer, don't care because what I care about is leads, right? So I just want to know that you know what you're doing. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where a common thing, there's something called flash rolling, which Oren Klaff talks about in one of his books, which I actually really like that. We use that in a lot of our sales processes. But it's like in that time period, we have short anecdotes, a couple flash rolls to demonstrate authority, and then you go right back. Makes sense, sound good, awesome. So that's the what you say, right? But the thing is that's only a very, very, very small percentage of why people buy. Yeah. The vast majority is the other 90%, which is how you say what you say. Because how you communicate massively changes what you're saying. So I'll give this example. This is one I got from Jason Fladley that I like a lot. If I were to say, so you have tone and emphasis, which are the two components of how you say what you say, right? So if my wife were calling me, so this is not from Jason, but like if my wife were calling me and she said, Alex, or she says, Alex, or Alex, those are all very different tonalities, right? They have different meanings, even though it's just my name. Right? You can, one of them is I'm playful and happy. One is, hey, what's going on? Third is like, are you there? Right? One is fear, one is joy, and one is anger. Right? And so there's different tonalities and all of those communicate different things. And so when some person reads the script, they're communicating something completely different than what they think they're communicating. The second component of saying how you say what you say is emphasis, right? Which is where am I pausing to make a point, right? And you can also lower and raise your voice. So for example, like that's what I was saying with my wife. If I raise my voice at the end, it's a question. If I lower my voice, so that what I'm saying right now is extremely important. You're going to listen to it because I'm lowering my voice and I'm slowing down. It doesn't matter what I'm saying, right? If I'm splitting back up, what I'm saying is really exciting. And oh my God, it's super cool. And there's so many things. This is where you do a flash roll. And this is where you explain you demonstrate your expertise. This is how you say that, because that tone has to be mirrored. So that's the tone. The emphasis is I didn't say he hit his wife. 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 Each of those has a completely different meaning. And so when people get scripts and they have a question-based framework, they say things the wrong way. And so that is why two people can have the same script and say the same things and communicate something entirely differently. And that is what is up to a good sales manager, to be able to correct someone's tone. And there's two ways you can do that. One is drilling, right? You can correct someone's tone by me practicing with you. And the other way that we can practice that is by making sure that you believe. Because if you believe, your conviction will automatically correct your tone. And the thing is most people don't believe what they say.
Do you find that a lot?
Yes. The best salespeople know how to have absolute conviction in what they sell.
And let me ask you this, like, what is the way you raise conviction with your team, or if you notice someone isn't selling from an actually convicted place?
So you need to remind them of the mission of the company. And then you reinforce those points with the success stories of the clients who are going through it and how the real impact. And to really drive it home, if it's somebody who's been on the team for a while, you say, hey, John, remember Josie from 6 months ago? Well, she just got off our diabetes medication, and it was because you decided to sell her and change her life. Right? So now he's
Yeah.
really convicted about the next phone call he has. And to prove the point, when I had my chain of gyms, do you want to guess what the best day of sales was? Every month.
Like best day of the week?
Best day of the month.
Or the first day?
I'll tell you when. It was the last day when we do our weight loss challenges, when everyone would weigh out. And so everyone would just be like, I lost 30 pounds, I lost 25 pounds, I lost 30, whatever, I lost 10 inches, whatever. And my sales guys would be there and they would just watch person after person after person after person. And on those days, we'd close near 100% every day, every time. And so I would try and book as many sales appointments as I could during the weigh out process because people were like, dude, of course it works. I mean, I just saw 10 people this morning weigh out. Like, if you're trying to lose weight, this is the place to be. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was just real seeing with their eyes conviction. And so the idea is, how can I recreate that in as many ways as possible with my sales team? And if you are a person who's selling, then you need to be most convicted about, like, the reason that founders typically sell way better than anyone else in their company, even if they're not as skilled in sales, is because they believe more.
They believe in it way more than,
Right. When they're like, no one can sell like me. It's like, right, because no one believes like you.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. And you do that and you increase the conviction by, the success stories, the mission of the company.
Right. And consistently communicating what we're doing for our customers. Hey, just so you know, we've increased, we've added this to our client experience. Hey, this is what the first, 3 weeks of being a client of ours looks like. The thing is most of the sales guys don't know what's going on. There's different departments, depending on what the company is, right? There are different departments. And like that has to be communicated on a regular basis from customer success and fulfillment back to the sales team. So they understand.
Let me ask you this, Alex. Where do you think, most salesmen go wrong when they're selling a high ticket product?
I think most high ticket products shouldn't exist. So right off the bat, I'm not convicted in most high ticket products. But beyond that, so let me ask you a question. Why high ticket products? Because there's really no difference.
That's true. I guess I'm like selling something high ticket, so I was just curious.
Yeah, there's no real difference. I mean, sales are sales.
Like, it's just value.
Yeah, it's just price to value. It's just making sure that the thing. I mean, there's the obvious constraints that some people won't have the money, and that comes in from the lead qualification side, right? But fundamentally, everyone wants to buy a bargain. But whether you buy $100 thing for $10, you buy $100,000 thing for $10,000, like, it should just always be a bargain for the person. Which in the book I talk about how to create value in more ways. And that's ultimately how, one of the ways you can increase conviction.
I gotcha. Is showing the value.
Right.
Wow. That's super powerful. And let me ask you this, because I know that you have, created very high, powerful, producing sales teams because of, all your products. I mean, your products are amazing. Your offers are amazing. But you also run really effective sales teams. And so I'm really curious, what do you think has allowed you to do that? And what does, the daily habits or routines look like for your sales team?
So I'm going to answer your question not in the way that you're asking it.
Okay.
So the reason that we've been able to build sales teams to the degree that we have is because the products we have are very good.
Good.
And a lot of people see me as a quote sales expert because we do a lot of sales. But do people see Netflix as a sales expert? They have a phenomenal product. And so that's really a lot of, like, that's what everyone misses. Like when people, go in the funnel hacking community and then they try and hack our funnels. Like I had a call earlier today where somebody was like, hey man, I bought your book and no one called me. And I was like, are you a gym owner? And they were like, no. And I was like, why would we call you? He was like, oh, you guys like look? And I was like, yeah, we're not going to waste our time. And he was like, I didn't get any emails. So I was like, right, you're not a gym owner. And so we're trying to hack a funnel, but the funnel is offline. It's not online. It's 3 pages. That's not going to create $100 million sales. Like, it's not crazy traffic arbitrage. It's just that we're a product, people continue to pay for it after they buy it. And so that's on the fulfillment. And so imagine every customer you sold is worth $100,000. Well, you don't need to sell that many to make a lot of money. And so we could scale the sales team because we're continuing to make money. So is it that we're really good at, coaching sales, or is that we have a really good product? And by a natural consequence of that, we can afford to outmarket people because we have a good product and we have a good backend. You deliver on promises. I mean, half
Mhm.
the people that we sell right now get a free trial. It's not a hard sale. It's hard on fulfillment,
That's r
but our guys will sell with that with conviction because they know we deliver. The average, the
Mhm.
average client that we take on in that specific business, we have a bunch of other businesses, but in that one, because we're
Mhm.
talking about ticket sales, like the average client makes 15,500 in their first 14 days. That's the average, which means half make more than that. So for us to charge $20,000 for something that make 15 grand in the first 14 days, it's a pretty good deal, right? And the
Yeah.
average increase in top line revenue over the first year is 239,000. So one of the issues that also happens in the quote high ticket world that you're referencing is that most people are trying to get
Mhm.
people from 0 to 1, right? Which is, I don't have a business to having a business. That's a mountain. It's a
Mhm.
huge, huge mountain to climb. It's a big promise. I don't do that. I work with existing business owners. There's a lot of beliefs and traits that I don't want to teach someone. I teach that with free content
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff, but like I don't want to specifically work because I think there's other people who can help someone break their beliefs around charging money and asking for sale. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like we have more specialized expertise and we're better. We can serve more. Like right now with the companies that I invest in, like can I help someone start a lemonade stand? Absolutely. But there's a lot of people who can start a lemonade stand. There's just not nearly as
Mhm.
many people who can take a company from 10 million to 100 million. And so I would just prefer to work with those businesses.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total
And
sense.
so
That makes
if you want to increase the quality of your product, you could and increase the quality of your prospects. So you can have the same product sold to two different people and increase the value that you provide based on who you're selling to.
That's really powerful. That was a big reframe and shift in my mind because there's yeah, I mean, and also hearing your stuff, you guys sell a lot based on your performance
Mhm.
and everything that comes with that, with your sales and your basically like what you said in the first 14 days, increasing their revenue by on average 15 grand.
Right. And we track those
Yeah.
metrics because we know the more money we make other people, the more money we make.
Hmm. That's
It's
really
a small
powerful.
industry. People talk. Like,
Yeah.
at this point, we have 1,500 testimonials. So, like, it's hard to say that it would be unreasonable to say that it doesn't work.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the idea. But that's also because I'm not taking people from $0. It's much easier to take them from 20 grand to 100 grand a month than it is to go from 0 to 20.
Ah, I gotcha. Yeah, so you're focusing on people who've actually gotten through and
Yeah, the
made some
normal
money
stuff.
as
They
a
signed
business.
a lease, they have an employee. I don't need to show them how to set up an LLC and a bank account. That's just not. It's not the
All the
game I'm
basic
interested
stuff.
in.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are people who do that. It's just not my game.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. And Alex, something I really admire about you is your ability to, like I a little bit talked about earlier, is stack skills and improve on yourself, and you're very, it sounds like, introspective and kind of figure out what you need to level up in. And I'm curious, what do you think has allowed you to like how do you figure out what skill you need to know or how to grow in that way,
Let me
as
give
you're
you the easiest
progressing
hack.
throughout your career?
Let me give you the easiest hack.
Okay,
Whatever you don't know how to do,
do it.
that is what you need to learn how to do. So it's like,
Mhm,
man, I wish like, I'll give the classic founder entrepreneur. No one can sell like I can
mhm,
sell. That is a problem. Now let's state it as a question, right? How can I solve the problem of getting people to sell like I can sell? Well, I
mhm.
guess I would have to be really good at recruiting, managing, hiring, and training salespeople. Well, then that is the skill
Mhm.
that I lack. So when people are like,
Yeah.
I can't find good employees, it's like, then the skill I should have is I need to go figure out the skill of how to find good employees.
Uh-huh. Simple.
Yeah. It's just whatever you don't know how to do, frame it as an opportunity to go learn rather than
Mhm.
just stating it and then just, folding your hands. The thing is that most people, I think, they geek out on the things they like, right? Marketers like
Mhm.
marketing, they read 100 books on marketing. But the
Mhm.
business, just like the individual, will only grow to the bottleneck, right? And
Mhm.
so most, and I think just within your community, are very probably promotion and marketing heavy, just because that's kind of the internet world, right? But for most of them, that's not their bottleneck. They know way more about marketing than they do about product, about how to deliver on a promise. And a good frame shift is like if you have one customer, like I just don't understand why people don't have clients when they start, because you just give away your stuff for free. It's not hard. Give away your stuff for free. Get better at helping people do the thing that you're claiming you can help them do. If you do a good job with it, those people will tell more people. Like, there's not, like, people get really complicated. Like, I've never done this before, and I want to sell a 10K product. It's like, why? Like, how do you feel about that? You've never done it. Would you pay 10K for what you're about to do? Because you don't even have 10K, right? Because then it becomes
Yeah.
swindling, and then you learn how to not have a conscience, which is not the right lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to focus on actually delivering on the promises. Once you learn how, like, I'm telling everybody who's listening to this, once you have a skill that is valuable to the marketplace, you will have the business you want, and you will have new customers coming to you all the time. I get DMs every day. Hey, can I give you a big chunk of money for an hour? Can I give you a big chunk of money for a day? How can I give you a percentage of my business? Like, I get these questions all the time because I've demonstrated that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is really short on demonstration, really big on promotion. I think we need to put a lot more weight in the demonstration part. If you demonstrate enough, people will come. It's just because also everyone's trying to make $1 tomorrow. And I get that. I understand when you're starting out and you're trying to hustle, but like, if you focus, like, everyone's trying to promote their sandwich store before even knowing if their sandwiches are good. They're like, I've never made a sandwich before, but I'm going to sell this person a year's worth of sandwiches up front. It's like, okay, why don't we just give away sandwiches for free for a little bit? And then once we get the sandwiches good enough, people will start coming back because sandwiches are good. And then you can start charging people, because then you can say this: hey, the demands on my time are too high for me to continue to do this for free. So if you like this is the rate that I'm going to be charging going forward.
Yeah.
And then some people drop off and some people continue to pay.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I started my first online business. My very first business, believe it or not, was online and not in person. So I started an online fitness business before I had my gym. And being the brilliant person that I am, as a joke, it's me kidding, I was like, oh, I'm making $5,000 a month and working half a day a week. I should just start a gym. I should have just done more of the thing that was already working, but I was an idiot. And the way that I started that business was, I said, I will donate 100% of whatever anyone gives me to charity, just to work with me. And I was like, you can pay whatever you want, just donate to charity, right? And so I had a lot of goodwill. And then people gave me forgiveness on the fact that they knew I wasn't making anything, and they knew I was just doing this because I wanted to help. And then I learned how to do a lot of that stuff, and I got a lot of goodwill out of it. And then after a certain period of time, I was like, hey guys, I think I want to do this full time. Whatever you guys are paying the charity, would you be completely opposed to just paying me so I can, like, eat food and pay my bills? Not a single person left.
Wow.
And so a lot of people just don't want to give stuff away for free. Give everything you possibly can away for free. Then once you have more clients than you know what to do with, then you monetize. And then once you're monetizing, making money, and you're still overworked, then you add friction. What I mean by that is then you start removing things. And so you have something that has a good profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the process.
Yeah. So do you think most young entrepreneurs go wrong in the sense that they're promotion happy as opposed to demonstration happy?
Yeah. Delivery. They don't focus on
delivery.
I mean, the real is that if you're an exceptional marketer, you can make more money. You can make enough money to retire on just being a good marketer. Mm-hmm. And so, is there a right way? Who am I to judge? But if you want to create an enduring enterprise that has enterprise value, that can actually run without you, then you need to have a product. And I say product as a general sweeping term for services, et cetera, for delivering on promises. I think that if you track my record, I typically wait far longer to make the move, to take the money, to make the ask than most people do. And I think that has been something that has served me very well. And this is more me just looking back. And I think that might just because I'm very insecure about people not getting what I promise. And so in the beginning, I was really into fitness, and I was in really good shape and had multiple state records. And then at that point, people were just like, hey man, can you help me with fitness? So I was demonstrating the expertise, and then people were like, dude, you're really good at this stuff. Like, can you help me? And then it got to the point where I was helping people for free, and they felt guilty. So they just started handing me money. Swear to God. And so at this point, I was like, oh, I can actually do this. I guess that's kind of cool. And that's when I was like, I'll do this nonprofit thing. And so then I started doing the nonprofit thing. And then once I had my gym, my first gym, and then I grew that, I didn't start a gym coaching business. I started a second gym. And then after that, I didn't start a gym coaching business. I started a third gym. And then after that, I didn't start a coaching business. I started 3 more gyms. So I had 6 gyms. And then after that, I didn't start a coaching business because I wasn't sure if I was good enough. I sold my gyms. And then I did 2 years of doing gym turnarounds. So I flew around the country, and I would show up because I deliver on my promises. And I would show up and I would make sure they were successful because I was there at their gym in person, sleeping in a motel for 24 days out of the month.
Wow.
And so I sold for them. So I knew they'd be successful. So I was the one doing the sales for them. Did that for almost 2 years. I think it was 18 months. And so we did 33 turnarounds. And then at that point, when I was sick of doing turnarounds and I had so many people reaching out, I didn't even want to sell what became Gym Launch. Someone was like, dude, I need this thing. My buddy did it. Like, you have to help me. And I was like, no, I don't have to help you. And they were like, well, can I pay you and you can just show me how to do it? Because I was like, I'm not flying out to your facility. Just show me. And I was like, fine, I'll show you. And I picked the highest number I possibly think, which at the time was $6,000. And he said, okay. And I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of money. And then I called the next guy and I had the same conversation and he was like, how much? And I was like, $8,000. And he was like, okay. And I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of money. But the thing is, I was absolutely convicted that I knew my process worked because I just spent 2 years doing that. So I knew it was going to work, right? People build a course per weekend, you know what I mean? Without doing the 2 years to know it's going to work. And so I can tell you that the skill you develop is the base of the pyramid. And the faster you make the ask is the shorter the pyramid is. The bigger the foundation of skills, because the longer you do it, the deeper your knowledge gets, the more nuanced and distinctive each of the inferences you get from doing what you do, the sturdier that base is. Because if someone's like, hey, man, what do I do with this? This person came in and said this. I'd been doing it for so long. I was like, oh, just do this. Oh, yeah, if that happens, do this. Other people are like, and then they just make something up because they don't want to seem like they don't know what they're doing. The thing is, when they look at the mirror at night, they know that they don't know what they're doing. They can say what they want on social media, but they know. And that conviction is what shakes people. And that is why people quit.
Wow. This is so, it's so simple, but it just hits, man. It's really just to the point. And let me ask you this, when you're going about, learning these things and executing on your promises and things like that, I'm curious, what is kind of the process you take is there a process you take to acquire a skill or, learn, learn sales, learn marketing? Like, is there a framework you go through to acquire those skills, or is it different for each one?
No, I think the learning process is more or less the same. So when you're trying to acquire skills or acquire information, you seek out experts first. So despite what I was saying about, I think, many products are not that good. I look at reviews and I talk to people and I get word of mouth, and I usually buy the top handful of products on anything. And then I go through all of them and then I have enough to piece together what is required. And then I start, and I expect to fail.
Expect to fail.
Yeah, of course you would. Why would I be as good as the guy who made the course on my first try? That's not reasonable. Do I feel like if I did the thing for a whole year and I had someone who's already done it and I paid them for time, that was good. I mean, I learned Facebook ads because rather than buying a course, I paid a guy who did Facebook ads $700 an hour to teach me how to run Facebook ads. And that was a lot of money to me, like a lot of money. I was making not a lot of money at the time. So it was like probably half my pay. You know what I mean? It was going to pay for these things. But I learned how to run ads. And I learned how to run ads in 8 weeks. And I learned how to run them pretty well.
Yeah.
So I asked people, I said, who's the best guy who knows how to run ads? And then I went to that guy and I said, hey, can you teach me how to run ads? And he said, I don't really do that. And I said, it's America. Everyone has a price. And I was like, what would it cost for an hour? And he said $750. And I was like, okay, well, give me 8 hours. And so I figured I could learn enough in 8 hours that I learned it. Because I was like, I'm going to use the mouse and you look over my shoulder and I will set this up. And then once it's live, if it's not working, I want you to walk me through your decision process. Tell me how to think about this. And that's how I learned.
I gotcha.
The rule of 100, which is what I call the rule of 100, which is if you do something 100 times every single day, or you spend $100 every single day on ads, you will get good. You do 100 reach outs, you do 100 cold calls every single day, in a year, you will be exceptional. If you don't quit.
You think just most people quit? That's why they don't.
Everyone quits. Everyone's soft. Yeah. Everyone personalizes. They say, somebody cussed me out on the phone. Like, I suck. It's like, no, you don't suck. You're bad at the thing. And it would be unreasonable for you to be good at the thing, because how can you compare to somebody who's been doing this for 10 years? He's good.
Yeah.
You've been doing it a week. Why would you be good? It's not reasonable. So people set these false expectations for themselves and then don't live up to them and then feel like failures, even though they set up the entire equation in their mind, which would make it impossible to win.
That's very true. Let me ask you this, Alex, and I'm curious because a lot of learning comes through failing, trial and error, obviously. What is the biggest thing that maybe you failed at in the past that maybe proved to be good or wrong, or unforeseen thing that you didn't do as well as you hoped to?
I have 8 failed partnerships. I started a chiro agency. I started a dentist agency. I started a supplement line twice. I started the first one, it failed, and then I started a second one. And that one I learned, and I did that 2 years later from all the learnings I had from the first one. I started, my nonprofit thing ended. My online coaching business ended. All of those were failures.
Well, because I think a lot of people don't talk about the failures, and the failures actually breed the successes,
Failure is a requisite for success.
A must.
So if you are not failing, then you will not be successful.
That's very true.
You have to shoot for the failure. You got to shoot for the failure. Because if you're not failing, then you won't be, you can't be successful. So it's like, just notch it off. It's like, great. And then set up equations that are unreasonable to lose, right? Like, we get to control the game we play. So if I were to say, do I think that in 10 years, if I cold called every day and just focused on the skill of sales, that I could be a top 1% salesman in 10 years? That's a reasonable thing to expect. And the top 1% of salespeople make $400,000 a year. That's the top 1% income in America. And if you make a top 1% income in America for your entire life, you'll be more than the top 1% in wealth. That's a very reasonable game to play. But everyone wants to have an unreasonable game everyone wants the lottery. Like, as Warren Buffett says, no one's really attracted to get rich slow.
That's very true.
Right. But it should probably restate it as get rich for sure.
And you can do that by making the cold calls every single day and refining your skill over 10 years.
Or whatever it is. Exactly. Or whatever the thing is. Yes.
Wow. All right. One last question I have to ask you for one of my friends. How do you, get over and what are your best tips, I guess, for getting over cognitive biases that you have, that you're dealing with?
I just think, is it reasonable? What evidence do I have that would reinforce it?
Is it reasonable?
And a lot of times there's not a lot of evidence. It's just like, man, I feel like a failure. It's like, well, what's the evidence? What evidence do I have to support that? It's like, well, how long have you tried? Well, 6 months. It's like, okay, do you feel like the most successful entrepreneurs were really successful in 6 months? Well, no. If you look at history, it takes 5 to 10 years for most entrepreneurs to really gain their stride. Okay, well, you're between 1/10 and 1/20 of the way there.
Wow. Yeah, it's so simple. Man, you simplify things you just make it so simple. It's like,
not easy.
Wow. Yeah, simple but not easy. Right. It's like cold calling for 10 years straight is not easy, but it's simple.
And realistically, you wouldn't even. You set that equation up so you can win. You'd cold call for maybe 9 months, and you'd be exceptional at it. And you'd probably move up in the company and just start closing. You know what I mean? And then you start closing enough deals, and they're like, wow. And then you become the top salesman. And at that point, you can do whatever you want. Because if you know how to cold call and you know how to close, then you can do whatever business you want, because you can cold call and close. And then at that point, it's just, what skill do I want to acquire that I think is valuable? So then you go acquire the skill that is valuable, and then you're like, okay, so this is the skill that's valuable, and I know how to get customers, and I can do those 3 things together, and there we go.
Wow. No, that's very true. Well, Alex, I know we're coming up to the end of our time here, so I want to point listeners in the direction of your new book. $100 million Offers just came out, and it's going crazy. The audiobook actually just came out, in case you want to read it and listen to it at the same time. You can find him, Alex Hormozi, on YouTube, and The Game with his podcast. Alex, once again, man, thank you so much for taking on the time to come out. And if you have any last things to say, feel free to share them now. But thanks again, man.
So, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and hopefully the audience got some value from what we talked about. The book is the first of a relatively philanthropic effort that I'm doing. I'm writing 10 books on basically how to scale companies. And it made sense to first start with the offer, because if you remember what I was saying earlier, if I just said, hey, I'll work with you for free, That's an offer, right? Or I'll guarantee you, and if I don't, I'll keep working with you for free. That's a guarantee. That's an offer. And so there's a very specific way that you can structure offers to make sales easy for you, to make prices easy to get that are higher ticket, to get more leads. And it didn't make sense to talk about lead gen. It didn't make sense to talk about sales until we got the offer right. And so the book, $100 Million Offers, covers that in depth. I also made a course that goes with the book that has downloads for each of the sections, and it's all free. And the book is 99 cents. So you can get the book for 99 cents. The goal is hopefully even your audience, if they're kids, and I say that tenderly, whatever your age is, it's 99 cents. So hopefully you should be able to afford it. And if you want to learn faster, this is a hack that I can give everyone. When I do choose to read, I usually read and listen at the same time. Because you store the information in more parts of your brain. And I think you actually end up reading faster because it stops you from kind of like pausing and like it keeps you moving through the information. And so if you want, I think all in all, I think it's maybe $11 because I can't control the Audible prices because Jeffy B gets to control those prices. So together you could read both of them and get the course and all the downloads for like $11. So, but if you're short on cash, then you can just get the Kindle for 99 cents and read it. So I made it for you guys and hope you find value.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Alex.
You bet, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.